All right, everyone, welcome to today's webinar on marketing and recruitment strategies for CTE. I'm excited to have a good group jumping in right away. I am recording, so if you have to cut out, or if you know colleagues who after this all want to check it out, I will have that and I'll send that out to the registration list. So welcome everyone, totally glad to have you all here. In the chat, I'm dropping the slides. Oh, I should have put that as a different kind of link, so let me grab that. Oops. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so let me do that better in the chat for you so you can actually click on it and get to it. So you're welcome to join me in the slide deck. Use the stuff in the slide deck. I do have a template for kind of like a strategic plan for recruitment and marketing that we'll get to, where you get to kind of like pick the things that are your priorities and make a plan out of that. And so I welcome you all here. And we've got 15 people on here. It's 3:01. Maybe we'll give it one more minute, but I feel like this is a good group. It's good to see everyone today on the call here. So feel free, if you want to say hi in the chat, where you're coming from. I know we have a lot of folks from San Diego County and as well as some from beyond. So thanks everyone for joining us. And I will just keep dropping this link in the chat for you because we know that if you pop in, unfortunately, the chat's not just waiting for you. And so if I keep dropping it in, you know why. You've been doing this for almost a year now. All right. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. So I'm Jewel Alderson-Clark. I am the Integrated Curriculum Coordinator for the San Diego County Office of Education. And I've been talking about recruitment and marketing strategies for years, so this is definitely, a lot of this predates the virtual environment that we're all in today. And yet here we are, because whether you're in person or here in a virtual space, really being thoughtful about what we're doing to ensure the right students are getting into our classes. And what I mean by that is, we know there's like background history of, you know, oh, well, they just dumped a bunch of kids in here, or we have some kids who don't see themselves in a certain class, and we want to encourage them to get into these classes, right? And so really being thoughtful of these strategies is a really important way to ensure, to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our students. So, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and pin myself so that shows up in the video. And again, we are recording today, so thanks everyone for joining us. And I will drop the link to the slides in once more. Let's go ahead and jump in. So really the guiding question here is, how do you engage in intentional and informed recruitment and marketing? That leads to improved student success, increased completion, right? Completion is like this new magical metric now that we have the California's dashboard that has the CCI. All of a sudden, our administrators are even saying, like, why don't we have completers? We have all these pathways, right? And so recruitment and marketing is just one piece of a bigger puzzle, but it can't be done without collecting a lot of these puzzle pieces. So as we jump in, you'll see that the things that we talk about today are meaningful, not just for your recruitment and marketing, but really for understanding your pathway. All right, and I'm looking here at the chat, and I'm so excited to see so many people from here in San Diego County, from other places outside of the county. I see a lot of our pathway coordinators who are kind of a newer support in the region, who are here that support a lot of your programs. So welcome everyone to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I kind of want to surprise you and give you a moment to meet someone else on the call. And I want you to think about one CTE pathway or program that you support in some way, whether you're a district or at a site, or you're actually the teacher who does it. And I want you to think about how you would respond to a question. Tell me about blank pathway or program. Okay, so you can pick the one that you know the best in the whole world. However that is, and let's see, we've got 26 people, so let's make like 7 breakout rooms. So you'll be like groups of 3. So you're giving an elevator pitch that says that you're going to tell each other, you're going to say hi. You have 30 seconds. So I'm going to only leave you in there for 2 minutes total. So you have to meet each other, but then tell them about one of your pathway programs. I'm a parent in the line at the grocery store, or I'm a student who wants to know more of that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms, and it looks like we'll have about 3 or 4 people in each one. All right, go. And those of you who are still here, I'm sure you're doing something else, but everyone's in a quick breakout room to just do a little quick exercise around elevator pitches for their program. So feel free to stay here if you don't want to jump into one of those rooms. Oh, look, you're all in the same room. How odd is that? And so if somebody like Amelia, I think you can unmute yourself if you want. It looks like the other folks in your room maybe didn't jump in, so I can also assign you to a new room if you want.
Great, thank you.
If you didn't get a notice, then at the bottom under breakouts, you should be able to accept. Just click your breakout button, Amelia.
Sorry, Jewel, I had somebody pop into my office real quick, so I didn't even hear the question. So
no worries, it's in the chat too, or I guess I broadcasted it. It's just we're doing a quick elevator pitch for one pathway or program in our breakouts. Kind of meet somebody and then practice the thing that you want to leave here knowing.
cool.
You can stay here for like the next minute and then I'll pull everyone back, so it's up to you.
It's not letting me into the other one either.
Under breakout?
Yeah.
You should be in room 3 if you click breakout.
It kicked me out.
Well, how about you give your elevator pitch to us? Would you mind?
Great. I support all of them. I'm glad I work at Monte Vista High School. Let me turn on my camera. So I'm a Monte Vista teacher in Spring Valley. So we work really well all together. So from auto to game design, all of us collaborate pretty well. So
so tell me more. I'm a parent and I would like to know more about your game design pathway. What do you got?
Well, it's a beautiful class. You actually get to learn, not only game design, but actually the marketing aspect of it as well. The teacher is amazing. I know you get your 10 credits for your full semester, and I think it's a 3-year pathway. So
good.
And anybody can join as long as you like anything that has to do with game or art or anything else.
Excellent. What programs does it connect to at the college?
Great question. That's something I would have to ask Todd.
Perfect. And your pathway coordinator should be able to help you with some of those things too, and connecting it to the college if that's not your role.
Yes. So I'm the teacher. I'm the cosmetology teacher. So.
Yeah. So hopefully you can send some of your students on to some post-secondary programs.
Definitely. Well, nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too.
I just want to turn off my camera because my dog shows up once in a while. So
no worries.
To meet everyone.
All right, and we're pulling everyone back in. Hopefully you just like, you show up to a webinar, you don't think you're going to have to talk, but this is not actually about me as much as it is about your, ability to connect. So there's about 30 seconds until everyone's forced out of their rooms. So it's always a good sign when there's a couple that are still in there, because that means that they want to talk till the end of their time. All right. Welcome back. 10 seconds. All right, everyone should be back with us now. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link in one more time in case you wanted to link to this. All right, so one thing I wanna know is, did that put anyone in like a position where they're like, I don't know all the things? Right? Imagine now, because I give you the choice. You could talk about whatever pathway you wanted. Now think about the pathway you know least about at your site. And would you be able to answer the question the same way about that pathway? So this is kind of like a little starter to say that the first thing that we need to think about is like knowing our pathway, right? We want to know the ins and outs of our pathway. Then we want to bring our team together at our site or district and beyond. And then we want to push out that information. And so hopefully that was a good little exercise for you to think about. And so when you start out with recruitment, the first thing is like, why am I doing recruitment? What are the problems that I have? So first, now in the chat, if you could just say some of the things that that you're up against when you're like, I gotta get students in here. What are the things that make recruitment difficult, or that you want to strategically address when you're doing recruitment and marketing? So use that chat to throw some ideas in there if you would. Oh, your chat quiet. Oh, there we go. All right. Yes, right now, even though we're not on campus, getting the word out is huge. Yep, understanding of the pathway. That's a good one. The standalone electives, right? We actually did some empathy work with some students, and we talked to a group of students who went to the second class in a pathway, and some students who did not go to this. They just went to the first class and then transferred out at the same school. And one of the findings that we had was that the students were not under the idea that this was a sequence of courses. So they just were like, I'm going to take this elective class. And whether or not we allow them to transfer out after a year, just by setting it up with that mindset, like, hey, welcome to a pathway, and a pathway is a sequence of courses, and you're going to get more if you continue in this. That changes the mindset of students, because recruitment and marketing isn't just about the first year students, right? It's about keeping them as part of the program as we go on. All right. I see, marketing materials. We don't have something for them to keep, to bring with them. Getting them to know the importance, how to advertise. This is a gold mine of issues. So some of the ones that I have listed out here, I see here too, right? One is also low enrollment, right? If you see programs that don't have enough students, right now that's a big issue, because right, we have, maybe it's an automotive pathway and students are hesitant to sign up for that when they're not going to touch a car all year. But we don't want those classes to disappear either. You might be experiencing like that lack of understanding that there's course sequencing, right? That they need to continue in that pathway. A lot of times it's just communicating with the parents and the students, or between them. Equity and access, it is so hard, because you walk into pathways and you will see certain ethnicities more strongly represented in some than others. And what we really want to see is all students seeing their place in all pathways, and that there can be gender inequities, right? You walk into an engineering class and you may not find that they have a representation of the campus as far as their male-female amounts. All right, student placement. So my background is I taught medical chemistry. I helped build the medical pathway down at Eastlake High School in Chula Vista. And one day I get I get my classes full of students, and the kids are like, I'm in this class because my counselor said it would be easier than the other ones. I was like, I mean, it wasn't even a CTE class, but it was to go alongside our CTE classes because we had a pathway that had the medical chemistry option for students. I was like, if anything, it's a little bit harder because I'm going to give you some articles and we're going to do different things than the other students, but you're still going to do a lot of the same stuff because we have to hit those standards, right? So that's really important for students to understand their placement. Completion rates, are you getting students who stay in the whole time? Because that starts when you recruit them, like we talked about already. Long-term career plan. Anyone get this parent who goes, my kid's not a CTE kid, they're going to Harvard, right? Like it, I struggle so much because we have this myth in life that you're either college or career. And we're really trying to change that and help our students know they're all career bound. It doesn't matter if they're going to be in school for another 4 years, another 6 years, another 10 years and get a, you know, a doctoral degree. There's the end goal is career. If our whole end goal is just to go to college, like good job everyone, like we could do that, no problem. But we want them to be successful in the world beyond the world of education. And so we really want to have this mindset. All students are career bound. So there are some ways that we can have that and help the students who are, they want to go to 4-year college, great. You want to go to a 2-year college, great. You want to go to apprenticeship, great. You want to go straight to school, great. Or to anything, right? I see Judy says CT is a huge advantage for college bound students. And that hands-on applied education is something that they need to be successful. And here again, that old notions of career pathways. I don't know what they're doing out there in that parking lot. As we have isolated CTE over the years and kind of separate it from a lot of the other campus activities, right? People just don't know what it is. They just remember the old school notions. So here we are, we're trying to change that as we go. So the 3 goals, like I said earlier, the first is to figure out what is your message, right? And that might mean you have to dig in and like create the message. The second one is collaboration. Who are your stakeholders on your team who are going to push that message out? And then finally, we're ready to have that outreach and go beyond that. So again, the slides are here. Let me drop this into the chat if you joined us later. And so we're going to start out and talk a little bit about pathway messaging. So again, first thing we want to do is make sure we know and that we are communicating the fact that this is a multi-year sequence of courses. It integrates your core academic knowledge with technical and occupational knowledge, right? These are straight out of kind of CTE definitions. We want to have students have a pathway to post-secondary careers. This is something a lot of people don't know. And you on the call may or may not have like an extensive knowledge of CTE, but CTE courses are actually required to be taught by someone with industry experience. So those CTE credentials mean that they've spent time in industry. In post-secondary, those who are at the community college, same thing, they have min quals or minimum qualifications around industry experience. And so we are bringing industry to our students through this in that way. Also making sure everyone knows pathways are focused on high wage, high growth careers. So how are we helping our families, our own selves, everyone understand and connect the dots between what they're doing now and what they're going to do when they graduate? Hopefully you're familiar with this diagram around CTE for the 21st century. Each one of these little bubbles, and this is probably linked straight to it. And I know this, oh great. The CDE website has been under review, so sometimes you click on things and it's hard. But when you look at one of these bubbles, each pathway at your school is gonna be one dot in one of these different sectors, right? So you might be personal services, you might be information support and services, right? So this is all of the classes in that pathway are in one dot in one of these sectors. And so understanding that as our own stakeholders, whether you're a counselor, a leader, a teacher, whatever it is important. We know that the intro courses can begin in middle school, and each set has its own required standard. So there's a big old pile of standards for each bubble here. So if you're a teacher, you probably already know that. If you are a counselor or another support person, There's actually, I have an entire slide deck if you're in here that's linked here at the bottom of just like, kind of like, here's what CTE is. So if you want a more in-depth understanding of CTE itself, dive in there. And I'll also be doing a presentation at next week's Counselor Con. The SDCOE has their annual counselor conference next week, and I'll be doing a presentation on CTE there as well. So it's also important to note that our college sectors are a little bit different. We like to make different labels at every level. So we have our high school labels. When we get to college, this is the labels they use for their sector. And the ones in gold for San Diego and Imperial County are actually what we call our priority sectors. They're the ones that have the greatest need for workers, and it's where a lot of our investment goes. You know, we know like in a 10-year period, healthcare will have like a 40 some odd % growth in jobs. And so when we're designing these, they actually look at workforce information and they go like, oh, we need a lot more people like 10 years from now. So we better start in high school training folks to get into the industry to fill these predicted needs. We also know that middle skill jobs pay well. And this is how we kind of have to change that old notion of CTE. And this comes out of, this is, and I don't know if it's linked because this is part of a shared presentation I did at another conference, but this comes from the Community College Center of Excellence data. And so we know that it requires more than a high school diploma for a middle skill job. A lot of times it's a 2-year degree, it might be a certificate, but we also see that their hourly rate is quite high. And in CTE, that means that they can get to a wage earning that is better than many other jobs in a very short period of time after high school. So if you're looking for more info on the labor market, My Workforce Connection does have a lot, and you can click right there, and that goes to our community college, has like a whole website just on labor market. So this is one way to help you understand what's happening. So like, let's say you have a pathway that's a health pathway, you can go through and look at some of these and help your families understand why your pathway exists and what benefits there are to that. All right, so that was just a primer to make sure we're on the same page with like where we are at the foundation of pathways. So let's get a little bit more into this messaging idea. So the first thing is we want to explore what already exists. Imagine you're a parent or student looking for more information on CTE pathway or program. If you Google it, first, you need to do it in incognito mode or whatever your like secret mode is. Because what that does is it searches not knowing what your search history is. If you're here right now, chances are that you have searched about CTE, that you're familiar with, career readiness and things like that. So like Google kind of does its Google foo and uses its algorithms to like predict what you're looking for. You want to pretend like you're new to this. So you go into incognito mode and you look up like East Lake Medical Pathway, right? What comes up? Can they find the information about the pathway easily? Because we all know a district website hides a lot of information behind a dozen clicks or more. Yeah. So if you are finding that to be a problem, one thing that you can do is work with your district and say like, hey, February CTE month, can we have a banner on the front page? And we click on it and it'll bring us straight to the information about our CTE pathways. So, you know, I know it's really hard because you can't promote everything all the time in a district, but things like that or including it in newsletters help other people find it. And if it's like a string that's like a million, you know, letters and numbers long to get to that URL, you might be able to work with your tech folks at your district to create a short link, or even just use Bitly, right? So that you have something short and easy to give people so that they can access your website. All right, so we want to identify the course sequence. And let's just see, nope, no chat. Feel free to ask questions in the chat along the way. I know we have about 25 people in here, so voice questions are a little hard, but at the end, I'll open it up for that for sure. So when we're messaging our pathway, we first want to make sure what is the sequence, right? Do we really know students take their intro, their concentrator, their capstone? That's if it's a 3-course sequence. If it's a 2-course sequence, some things over the last few years have changed so that 2-course sequences are fine, but it should be a concentrator and a capstone, and we drop the intro. Now that's just the way it's coded. Whatever words you use to describe the class are kind of like a school by school choice. And so it does get complicated, but hopefully you have your sequencing all done. You have your concentrator capstone or your intro concentrator capstone. And you build out a program of study, and we'll look at some examples of that. You build some marketing materials, whether it's brochures or posters or handouts. We'll kind of look at some examples. You want to make sure your website is up to date. Whatever they're Googling, use your Google Foo to see if you can figure out how to find the information with like 3 clicks or less would be ideal, right? And then the other piece is like consistency. We see a lot of times you have an AME pathway that's graphic design. Their stuff is amazing. They've created commercials. Well, that can be kind of an equity issue in the fact that then students are predisposed to pick that because of the flashy, not because of the content behind it. So if you can rope those same students in to having a project where they maybe create something similar for every pathway, then it becomes like a consistent look and feel. You can also do, a lot of districts will have like a common logo between things that they can use to have that consistency. Now, this is just like an old template where working with other stakeholders, what we said is like, what if we had a whole plan so that we knew, and we said, all right, if this student wants to make it all the way through this pathway, what would their whole course choice look like? So here what you can see is we have, all right, in 9th grade, here are the courses they would take. There's no CTE, but what are the recommended activities? We might include them in a pathway related club, community service, CTSOs, and those kinds of things. Then we can go into the pathway course 2, 10th grade, right? But it has all the different things. And if you have an integrated pathway, you can also include that as well. So some people might have linked learning and things like that, where you do get to see like students who are taking like medical chemistry is what I taught, right? So we want those students to see what their options are. This becomes like a pot of gold if you're a counselor, because then you go like, oh, well, what are you going to take this year? And they could just circle the ones that they want to take, and it can really help the students choose that. And then what you say is this program study meets the minimum requirements for students to be prepared on the CCI, right? Within this, there are going to be things like they're all A through G. The students are going to meet their post-secondary credit, college credit metric, those kinds of things through this. So this is one way to make sure you're all on board, you understand your program. This is also another way, like let's say you have AVID, right? AVID is something that, because it's extra classes as well, there could be conflicts. It could be difficult for a student to be an AVID and complete CTE because there might not be enough room in your schedule. So what you can do as a site is really work on like, what would it look like for a student who wants to do both? Is there room in the schedule? How can we prioritize our master calendar for these students so that they get locked in to classes that they really need in order to be a completer? And you can't have those priorities unless you've figured out what the ideal schedule would look like. Now, this is something you can link to on your website. But the other magic of it is you also have a page that shows them where they go after. So here you're like, this is your high school experience. And then on the other side, you show, here's some certifications, apprenticeships, licenses. Here are the 2-year degree programs. Here are the 4-year programs or suggested majors. This is a way to communicate with our families that this is not just for the kids that aren't going to college, or it's not just for the 2-year kids. This is for every kid. And it helps them to see, if I'm in this ICT program, I could go into computer science at the 4-year, I could go to computer electronics in the 2-year degree program. I want to get to work very quickly. I'm going to do a quick computer programming certification. You can link to all of these, and actually your pathway coordinator, which is a new role that we have in the region, might be able to help you identify some of the post-secondary programs that are at your local community college if you're working with them. So just giving some shout outs. I know we have some pathway coordinators on the call, so maybe at the end I'll let you all say hi or something. The last piece is, like we already said, all students are career bound. So what do we have at the end? Here's your career. So here I've taken a piece of labor market information from the San Diego Workforce Partnership. I've added it right here so that students can see some of the different wages, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and get a better feel for the industry that they are headed towards, because we want them to have that end goal. That's the point of career pathways. I will take a moment because I just said that, right? Like, wow, some people are like, well, how is the kid in ninth grade we're telling them they're going to have to go through all of this to become an engineer of computers. But what if they don't want to do that in ninth grade? Remember, we're also preparing them with all these essential skills. We're helping them understand if they like it or not. Like, I was pre-med and I didn't have a chance until halfway through college to do an internship that showed me that that wasn't for me. So we want to give our students earlier and early experiences, because learning they don't want to do something is as powerful as learning that they do want to do it. Because that was a lot of effort to be pre-med and then not go to med school for me. And so we want to give our students those chances early. So don't worry about like pigeonholing students into a pathway. When you're communicating and someone asks you that question, help them see we're building essential skills, we're building professional skills, we're building awareness, and we're giving them a ton of opportunities to explore careers. And so just because they take a ICT pathway doesn't mean they have to go into that field, but it does mean they'll be prepared more for any field they go into. So those are kind of like those little tidbits when you get into it. So here's a few of our local CTE websites that are kind of nice to peruse and kind of see how they have set everything up. I encourage you to look at some of these, and this is actually recently redone, and you can see this looks fantastic. Parents, students, businesses. So if I'm a parent, I can easily find information about each school. If I click on that school, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to see which pathways are available. And so this is as you're building out the communication piece this year, this is more important than ever. They're not going to come to your meeting in person and shake your hand and talk to you about the pathways and see all of the equipment. Having a showcase on your website of what a pathway feels and looks like is going to be the best way to do that. I think also, so here is the CTE pathways, and this is at Grossmont. And so you can click on their school site list and it will give you all of the different schools, and I can click on any of those and I'm going to get links to all of their pathways and information about that, right? So quick, a couple of clicks, I'm in, I can get to the detail I want. And here they have even like each school, and then these little icons are known in CTE, they match that pathway. So this is a great way to communicate on a big picture. And then if you click on any of them, they actually also do a really nice job of showing like, here are all the courses in this pathway. Here's my concentrators, my capstones. These are all A through G approved, and that's a big piece of the puzzle. So if you're in counseling, you know, I mean, everybody knows A through G is so important, but we do want to reiterate that these are all approved by our UCs and CSUs as entrance requirements, and not just in electives, but often in arts and sciences and some of the other components. Here they even have agricultural economics and government policy for their history, social science. So these great integrated pathways are really meaningful for the student experience. If I'm a parent, this is really helpful. If I'm a student, this is really helpful. It addresses a lot of the things that we talked about, that you talked about in the chat, around making sure they understand its sequence, that they know what classes are involved, and those kinds of things. So I recommend that you peek around. Now this one, if anyone from Carlsbad's on here, oh, let's see if these, oh yeah, no, this is still here. They have created these great infographics where each pathway kind of just has a little overview. And you can see that these would easily translate to just being printed as flyers. If you have good color printing, because we all know that that's always a challenge in education. But this is two of the pathways at their site. They have just a nice outline, and this again helps people see what it is. So you can see each district might take a little bit of a different approach. However, there are a lot of ways to see more of that. And I do have some screenshots here, but I took you there in person. Now, if anyone from Torrey Pines is here, I know you don't use this anymore, but this is actually one of my favorite recruitment and marketing flyers that I've seen out there. So I'm just going to keep using it as an example. This is great because at one school, they have 5 pathways, and you can quickly see all of the courses in each pathway, right? So year 1, year 2 capstone, year 1 capstone. So now we see this is a sequence. I'm going to pick from these 5. There's a blurb about each one. And so this is a really nice way. And then if you use something like this that was like in a clickable PDF, you might even click on one and get more information about it. But I have always loved this, so I don't know if our folks from San Diego are on here, but they're always doing great stuff. But this has always been one of my favorites for a school that has multiple pathways, because you can get it all in one quick view. I also encourage you to connect with your students so that they understand what the options are at the post-secondary level. So careera.org is our regional website. It covers all of our community colleges in San Diego and Imperial County, because that's our community college region. And so at careered.org, they can actually, students can explore and click. And so it's really thinking, again, about a pathway. You're frustrated sometimes that kids don't see it as a sequence. Well, we also need to be thinking about what does the sequence continue to do. So this site has a lot of great tools for you, for students to explore, for you to explore. So I wanted to make sure that that was there for you. And then also these are some of the different guides that they have that get into each of the sectors. So when your students are trying to pick your pathway as part of your recruitment, helping them also see there's these great like fast facts. You can utilize the labor market information provided to us by the community colleges in your own recruitment and marketing, because this looks very student friendly because it's made for our community college students. And so some of these tools might be helpful for you in that. There's a handout for each sector. Again, it has things like how much you're going to make and how much growth there is in that sector. So all these resources are to help you get there. So I want you to stop right now. We're kind of, we've got 2 more sections, but this is where the meat of our day is, really was thinking about like our pathway itself. And I want you to think about what is the one thing I want to do to improve pathway and program messaging at my site campus. Make a commitment. You can also share it in the chat if you want. But is the message already out there? Is it on your website? Is it in a digital friendly medium? Is it in a place where you could send out in your school newsletter? What does that look like? All right. Now, you might know, oh, here we go. We've got one. Yes, all the information in one central place. And that's actually interesting. Like, you all have different roles. Some of you are at a site, some of you are at a district. It's nice at a district to have all of those, but then it needs to be linked to from the site as well as from the district, right? So all of those are a piece. I love it. We've got someone talking about linking the community colleges to their pathways. It's great because we want to see that K-14, that K-16 experience. And we actually have funding in most of our districts here, the K-12 SWP, that is designed to help make those linkages. So when we're back in regular life, we can have events where you meet up with your community college folks, but we're already doing that virtually now. And so continue to connect that. I see many commercials. Oh, great. And if you have links to some of these awesome things that you've done, please share them in the chat. I know I'm sitting here and I'm not even hands-on. I'm barely newly hands-on. I'm starting to manage some of our own CTE programs at our juvenile court and community schools. But like, you are doing this boots on the ground work. So if you have great examples, please share them. And maybe I will steal them to incorporate into the future iterations of this presentation as well. So thank you. I see a few different links coming in. Awesome. All right, so we only have 20 minutes left to talk about now what you really came here for, which is getting the word out. I mean, we can go over, but I also want to respect your time. So I won't go anywhere, but I'll try to be done with everything by the time we hit 4 o'clock. So the first thing is, who's your team? Who has a voice with your students and with your parents? Want to make sure that they're on board. When I led that medical pathway at Eastlake High, what I found is that people didn't know what it was. And so I started having an annual meeting in January I'd go to one of the counselor PLC meetings and I would invite all the administrators and I'd say like, here's our medical pathway. Here's what's going on. Here's what we ask of our students. This is what we want the sequence of courses for them to take. And it just made everything so much more streamlined because they were well informed. And then they'd be like, well, what about the engineering pathways? I don't run the engineering pathway, go talk to them. But that information is so helpful. So having a strategic one meeting at your site is important. And here is what you can work on together. And we've already dug into this. And this is a template that you can use that's a marketing action plan. And in this, again, we already talked about all this pathway messaging. Now, this is very long. You're supposed to make a copy of this and then delete all the stuff that you don't want to do. All right. So you're going to go through this with your new stakeholder team. All right. Do we have a course sequence? Yes. Does everyone know it? All right. Let's make sure everyone knows it. Do we have an infographic or a brochure? Do we have what to expect in the pathway, careers, all these things, right? Do we have a commercial or a video that maybe my students created, right? That is visual, that gets people interested, right? Why do people love TED Talks? There's hardly any words on the screen. So the more simple and visual we can get things, the better, because we know CT is hands-on learning. So we can take pictures and we can show them what it looks like. Or in this digital age of distance learning, if you can get student projects that they've created and have permission to share those, it can help shed light on what students are doing from home. So don't be shy about putting student work out there as one of the ways for people to understand what's going on. Update your website, create that poster. Right now, it might not be as much of a poster, right? You might delete that, but instead, maybe it's an infographic that you use in a newsletter. Think about your district and school branding and communication guidelines. Make sure you can run it by if you have a communications team or a PIO, a public information officer. They not only might be able to give you some feedback, but they might have a team who can help you clean it up. And they have all the connections out there. So you're like, hey, it's CTE month in February. We'd like to push out all of these great flyers we make. Now your PIO is like, great, I need stuff for Twitter. I'm sending this out. So make sure they're part of your stakeholder team, right? So we come down here, we get into collaboration and communication. And so all the things I'm kind of talking through are part of this action plan. It looks overwhelming, but like I said, just go and delete the stuff you don't want, make a copy, make it yours. And you'll kind of go through and see what you want to do as a team. Now, nothing gets done unless you see who is responsible. When are you going to start it? When are you going to complete it, right? What's the progress? This can become your team meeting agenda. Forget having agendas, just work on an action plan. All right, so that is a little bit of gold for you to take with you, that action plan, and it should be, the link is right here, so copy link, and let me just put this straight in case you're not following along with the presentation. You can get that link itself. All right, who is there? Who are your other stakeholders? Theater school, the administrators, teachers, and counselors at your middle schools are so important, and yet they often are not part of the conversation in helping them understand your pathways. You can have teachers from your own campus who are in courses that might feed into your programs, right? So if you have a very techie CTE pathway and they start as sophomores, get into your math and science first year classes and encourage students to attend by making sure those teachers know the program. And what you can also do is bring those people in when you're in person, take them on a little tour of all of your pathways, have an open house at your site for the teachers. Hey, today at lunch, we're having a little, bring lunch and what do they call it? Lunch and learn in the CTE room and make sure that they know a little bit about what's happening. You can also, in the digital world, reach out to people individually, ask if they have any questions and things like that. Now, this is another magic place. Bring in your graduates, your capstone students, and your completers. Consider them part of your team and see how you can have them share it with the counselors and the teachers, what their experiences are. All right, so I want you to think about this. What if you're in post-secondary? I know we had some community college folks and some adult ed, so you might have more of this, but who needs to be able to speak about it? Who's going to be in line at the grocery store and a parent asks that elevator pitch question? You want every principal, administrator, counselor on your team, right? So really be thoughtful about who you're pulling in and who knows about it. So I want you right now to make that commitment to yourself. Who are at least 2 new stakeholders you want to bring into the recruitment and marketing conversation this year? So hopefully these top 3 are already on your team. Have you connected with your middle school? Have you connected with your graduates? These are great places to pull people onto your team to help communicate the successes of your program. All right, outreach. First of all, again, we want to reiterate with every audience, we have to remember they have old notions of CTE. We have a career first mentality. We want our students not to just go out and close their eyes and pick a major. We want them to choose their career, find the post-secondary program that fits that career, and take that. I have a friend who his daughter was a National Merit Scholar, right? This, pat us on the back, educators, we did it. We educated this gal and she super smart. And so I was at their house for dinner and I said, oh, what are you going to major in? She and her dad said, it doesn't matter because it's free, right? Because she got a full ride scholarship, National Merit Scholar. I was like, is this what we're creating? This is like the epitome, beautiful thing of all that we do in education is we've created someone who doesn't know what they want to do. And so I switched it because in CTE, I always say, stop asking them what they want to do, ask them what problems they want to solve. So I said, well, what problems are you passionate about? What do you want to solve? She went on for 10 minutes about the environment and how impactful like she wants to be on changing that. And I was like, oh, do you think there's any careers there? Like, do you want to major in something that connects to that problem you want to solve and the job you might have one day? And so, you know, how do we help our parents see the value in CTE and our students see the value in CTE? We want to be giving them this real world experience so they know what it means to be career ready and to make informed decisions when they leave high school. I believe CTE, our foundation is that we want to have students who can make informed decisions about their future. We want to have students who also have the academic and skills background so that whatever future that they choose, they can go that direction and they'll be prepared for it. So those are some of the ways that I really promote CTE as we're thinking about it. And that comes across whether you're in person or in Zoom. This is a great little video. It's about 3 minutes long. I'm not going to show it. It's just CTE learning that works for America. It gives just a real broad overview of what CTE is, and it's a great tool for our parents and families so that they get a feel for this idea. When we're talking about program outreach, ensuring students and parents in your feeder school have this information, this is what I'm seeing right now, and it's phenomenal. We're having middle or high school pathway students as guest speakers in middle school Zooms, right? It's a win-win. So here we've got a high school student who is in the culinary program. They're able to go into the middle school, maybe during a nutrition unit or for whatever it is, and they're able to maybe lead a little activity or at least share about their experiences. And the middle school teacher's like, oh, good, somebody else, because engaging students is the biggest challenge in the world right now, we know. Well, it's not the biggest challenge in the world. In the world of education, engaging students is the biggest challenge at a distance. So how do we bring in voices? Bring in the voice of your pathway students straight to the students that you are recruiting, right? We can talk all day. We're boring. We're adults. Get students in to talk about it. Not just any student. What are what students are you trying to make sure that they feel a fit, right? If you have tech heavy programs, bring in a female student to talk to the middle schoolers so that the girls aren't feeling intimidated about choosing those pathways getting into high school. Those kinds of things are another strategy in order to address some of those equity issues we see in the programs. You can also we have a ton of districts doing pathway information sessions for middle and high school parents or students. So you open up, you have industry speak, you have like a Zoom, right? A Zoom webinar, you can have panels, you have industry speak, you can have the different teachers speak, you can have breakout rooms so that teachers can meet with parents and students for each pathway. There's some great ways to engage at a distance in this way. If possible, record your main session because we know it's hard to attend. But in general, a lot of parent engagement is increased right now because they don't have to get in the car. They don't have to find parking. They don't have to worry about, oh, but the kids need to eat dinner in between the meetings, right? So reach out, make sure that you are connecting with the families so that they can be informed about these programs. Also, make sure that they have the marketing materials before they're asked to register for classes. I remember running a pathway and they'd include us with the clubs, right? There was like a future Titan night and it was like, we're going to show you all the clubs, and the pathways are like a club, right? So here they are, the students have already registered, they've already selected their classes, and all of a sudden we're telling them about the pathways, and now they're having to go back and change the classes because now they want to get into the pathway. So make sure that that's part of your initial push, which is probably right about now in the school year, to push out that these materials are there before they register for classes. Also, if you have a website, include that if possible. I know it can be like a very difficult thing to change the registration forms that students fill out. But if there's a way to either include a link there or somewhere in the registration materials for all of your CTE programs, then that would be a great way. So that as students are going through and they're like, I don't know what this agriculture program is, and they can like click and then they can get all of that information. So in some ways, moving from paper to digital opens up a world of information for our families. But if we don't provide that link, if we don't provide that click, that QR code, whatever it is, then it can be lost. So make sure that you do have those materials as well. So here's your commitment here. What is one way I will reach out to inform students? 3 sections, 3 commitments. A lot of commitments probably when you get into the action plan. So as we think about our next steps, you want to think about what's your current status, what's happening in my programs, what am I going to do there? Identify my current resources. What have I got already going on? Like, am I already doing a parent engagement session, but I haven't fixed up the website, right? What are your priorities? If you like that action plan, take it, run with it, make it your own, and then implement. So look at that. Somehow I left enough time for Q&A, and also just, jump out if you have questions, if you have examples. Let me open the conversation up. You can either chat it, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions, then go ahead. Very quiet. There's no unmuting, which is usually the sign someone's going to say something. So I'm curious what you all are doing. Is anyone doing something great for CTE month or something great? I see, let's see, we can probably open some of these. Oh yeah, so thank you. Joanne has shared their CTE fair that they have going on. So they have RSVP, you can showcase CTE. So you can see here they have, look at these great pathway infographics here. And so you click here and that is your Zoom link for that particular pathway, right? So if I want to come and meet this agriculture, natural resources careers, I'm going to click here and here's the date, February 3rd from 3 to 5. So they have this whole career fair from 3 to 5. They've set up, each teacher has a Zoom link. You can go and you can check it out. Since this is here and public, if you're trying to do something, maybe you could be a fly on the wall and sneak in and pretend you're a parent. Joanne, do you want to talk about this at all?
No, you're doing a great job. You are welcome to join us if you'd like to. If you click around on there, we will have live Zoom rooms Some of it will be translation. We'll have kind of a help room. We have early college credit as well, talking about articulation and concurrent enrollment course that we're doing. But each of those banners, we're still working on it. But the banner, you should be able to click on to enlarge it. And I'm not sure if we fixed that today or not, but it is kind of a work in progress. So no, we do invite all of you to attend if you want to check it out. And we're working on feedback forms right now to see, you know, how do we get the feedback from the people who are joining the rooms. We just rolled it out to our teachers, and they kind of scoured each of the links and said, this is working, this isn't working. So it's really kind of been a ground zero building for our CTE fair and month. So hopefully this will be a good, you know, a step in the right direction. Maybe it won't be going away. It'll be posted somewhere on our main website as well. So yeah, if you have any questions, we're more than willing to help you out and work with you. So
Perfect. Thank you.
Joel, I had a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi. What are your ideas about using our industry partners or our advisory boards in getting the word out or marketing? Because I know it varies school to school, but it seems like an untapped source for marketing. And so I was just wondering what your thoughts were.
Yeah, and it's definitely a place where you can do a panel, and a lot of times it can be you can do a panel where you have one person for each pathway represented from industry, and you can use that as a promotional tool for families. I think it's important for families to see that industry values pathways, right? So that they know, oh, when you graduate, like these are actually things that are useful. I think, you know, the more we talk to industry, the more they talk about essential skills. And so that also helps when they're like, you know, really the technical skills are one thing, but the fact that students are learning how to email like a professional, that they're working on their resume, that they're interacting with industry people is huge. And so, you know, industry can often talk about that piece too. And I think that takes away a little bit of this pigeonholing stigma that we see, that some people are really reluctant around pathways because they're like, I'm not going to make a kid pick their future in 9th grade. And our career paths are so wiggly that it's okay for a student to start a little bit early in that, you know, okay, I'm going to be this. Nope, I'm going to be that over here, right? We've all done it a lot of times in our career. And so we want to empower students to know that they're making those decisions. So yeah, you can do that. Also, you know, one of the things that I've had is when I used to do these annual, at the end of the year, I'd have an event where our capstone students would talk to all the other students in the pathway at the site. And so if you're doing recruitment like within and you're worried about retention, you can do something like this. And we'd have our senior students talk about their most impactful work-based learning experience. So some of them went on internships, some of them did certain tours, like what impacted them the most. And you might actually in this space be able to do that, like maybe with an industry partner and their intern to do, you know, if you had a panel or if you had like a side-by-side opportunity for them to talk about, you know, the meaning of having an intern and the meaning of being an intern and how that impacts their organization and their future. All right, let's see. Somebody else shared one. Okay, Springs Charter. Oh, look, they have like a commercial for each one of them. That's what she had said. So here I was just pulling up some of the things that were shared in the chat. So this might be something to check out as well. All right. Well, it seems like if we're quiet and it's almost 4, we don't have to stay here any longer. Or you can, you know, feel free to unmute or I'll stay if any of you had individual questions. But thank you all for joining today for the webinar on CTE marketing and recruitment strategies. The thing is just like high quality teaching, a lot of the same strategies are used, whether you're in the classroom or at a distance. In the same way, recruitment and marketing is the same. So it's really know your pathway, make sure all the people who should know your pathway, and then you can get the word out. So thank you for joining me today. And if you have any questions, my contact info is here. And good luck. And keep it, feel free to invite me if you do have one of those parent engagement sessions, because I love gleaning information off of others. So have a wonderful rest of your day. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, but I'll stick around for any other questions you might have.